Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. How are we getting on? Welcome back to Finch Farm once again. So today we're going to work on a new home for the Finch family, as my plan, I think, for the next video is going to be to repurpose their existing one. So, as always, if you like what you see, do hit that big red button, and let's get stuck in. So, we are at the opposite end of the overpass today. The southern end, I believe. So we're going to plug this big hole, largely so I don't fall down it, which really didn't solve the problem. And then we'll move on to building the main building. So, I'm going to use these warehouse pieces as they're suitably soft and suitably scrappy for the job as well. Plus you can still see through the hole. My eventual plan is to re-engage, scrap that settlement and get rid of those fragments of plant sticking through there. It'll tidy the thing up a little bit. But I didn't remember to do that this time, so we'll do that in time for the tour. Excuse me. So, dead easy, group select, sink it in. Here we go. Initially I thought this was going to be a bit of a problem. It's probably easier if you're going to build basically on top of the hole to build your structure first and then group select the floor that you're going to use to plug the gap with underneath the building after you've built it. Assuming you've got the space to put the floor together after that anyway. So, onto the building. As you can see, vault pieces, or specifically the destroyed ones added by unlocked settlement objects. So those of you who have been around for a while may have seen my build I did for Curie on Spectacle Island a while back, and it's based off that principle, this. Basically I built her a house out of vault pieces, much like this, and then decorated it from the outside. Hers is a lot more twig and cottagey. This is more scrappy, which is also why I decided to use the ruined pieces. So I'm not quite sure how they would have lifted them up here. I figure as we've got a few works in progress as far as vaults go, so partially built ones and incomplete ones around the Commonwealth. And given all these pieces are basically flat pack, it seems likely that there'll be somewhere sort of trains or trucks or something somewhere around that were shipping vault components to what were going to become vaults when at the time the bombs fell. So I figure Abraham Finch has probably found a shipment somewhere and used those to build his shiny new home with. So that's clinic pieces to build that off. The thing to bear in mind, unfortunately, is the only window pieces we've got are usable in mid-sections of the walls. You can't have them connected to a corner, which is unfortunate when you're building something this small. So sadly the house won't have any windows. It did take me a while to figure that out. This is also a pertinent point. If you're building internal doors in particular, well, doors at all really, and not using the big cog-shaped vault door, and you need to have two rooms backing onto each other with door pieces that back onto each other like that, so you've got effectively two doorways. That way the internal door will just disappear in between them. See, if we haven't got that option for the external doors, they are left, the doors that is, are left sticking out rather, which is a bit unfortunate, but we'll work around it. Make it work with the scrappiness. So we'll put a back door over here, if I never get it to snap. If you have the space, I strongly advise doing this somewhere where you've got a bit of room and then group selecting the whole thing in. Because when I come to decorate the outside, it does cause certain problems in the confined space. But we're going to put the upper floor on. Unfortunately, these don't want to snap in. I don't know if it's because I'm using modded items or just the way it goes. I suppose the idea would be to use atrium pieces and snap to that, but as I've never actually used the vault pieces to build a vault, I'm not entirely sure. Either way, this works. Sort of manually position it in, and it sits reasonably evenly on the top anyway. The thing to remember is the curved edge sticks out a bit further than it looks anyway, so it works. So, using ruined nursery pieces for what will become the shared bedroom for Daniel and Jake, is it? Finch? The two children. I use the term loosely, they're obviously grown men. Well, that's going to become their room. Now this one will become Abraham and Abigail, is it? Anyway, Abraham and his wife's room. I did want to have some internal stairs on this, but the only ones available to me are the atrium ones, and they're far, far too big, and I didn't want to go down that road. It would have looked absolutely absurd up here. So, external staircases it is. So now I've got the thread of how these things snap together. It's much easier. He says. There we go. Now, obviously, that's rather unsubtle. There we go, I'm just going to snap some doors on. You can see on these outside ones that large portions of the door are rather exposed. But I've actually forgotten to put the inside one on this stage. I'll do that later on. But that disappears inside the walls effectively, as I've got the two doorways backed onto each other. So yes, we've got a big kind of capsule looking thing here that's a bit weird, so we'll cover up the outside and make it look a bit more in sync with the rest of the build in a moment. Interesting point. Where do the doors go? Actually look, the bottom door, you shouldn't be able to get through that top door. Totally not a problem. Very strange. So, as I said, it's much the same principle as I did with Curies. If you want to have a look at that one, it's, as I say, it's a less scrappy look. I'll put a card somewhere up to it so you can link to that. But the principle, as I say, is exactly the same. Basically take warehouse pieces, you can use barn pieces as well. But you do need either one of those two, really, as the regular pieces are not quite tall enough to reach above the height of the vault pieces, so they won't hide it very easily. You could glitch more and more pieces together, which would be fine, but quite a pain in the neck, I should imagine. Maybe one day, we'll see. So that didn't want to snap on at the bottom because of the lane divider there. But went on okay at the top. I'm actually going to retweak that one at the top. But in the meantime, we'll grab that handy concrete pillar and group select this one in, just to cover up the corner a bit. So the end result's actually a little better than it currently looks. Obviously with the holes in the pieces you can see the vault underneath, but I think it just adds to the scrappy look, works okay. The thing's a little boxy, but that's just a result of using vault pieces basically. It only works in squares really. There's not much else you can do about that. But, yeah, it works. So we'll just cover up the door frame a little bit more. There we go. Fortunately, the warehouse pieces and barn pieces as well are nice and soft, as we've mentioned before, so you can basically push them into each other and create mishmashed textures and stuff. So, what we're going to do here is just slap together 4 pieces, as that's basically half the length of the building, and then do this outside edge. As I say, the smart thing to do would be to do the whole thing sort of in the centre and then group select it into place, or possibly use warehouse pieces, or possibly barn pieces, and build a sort of floating platform out around the side with foundation pieces from either the barn or the warehouse tab. You could then sink the pillar into, unless you've got a jetpack, because that happens. You see I'm standing right on the extreme edge of the upper level here, and spent quite a lot of time trying not to fall to my death. Which of course ultimately I did end up doing. Fortunately didn't lose too much. Just about 5 minutes work, it wasn't too bad. I'm going to very carefully run along the outside edge to see how that looks. It's okay. Sadly it's a little too close, and look at that, it's just over the top as well. That's going to be very handy later on. So yeah, it's just a little too close to the edge of the vault, or the vault pieces rather, to snap things on, so we'll repeat the procedure and group select from the other end. The conduit gives us a little bit of extra reach and allows us to position the pillar off to the side so it'll sink it into the... there we go. Told you it was going to fall off eventually. So, back up to the top. Yeah, it allows us to sink into the surface of the road up there, so we can do this. So I'll skip over most of the rest of the decoration of the outside as it's repeating the same principle. It's very easy, you basically do whatever you like with it if you want to do something similar yourself. This bit, however, is vaguely interesting. You've seen me do it before, I'm sure. It's just a case of, because it won't snap onto the top half here, and it's a little too high for the concrete pillars, being as they're just standard height. We'll just get the two of them and group select the lot to get it into place. As always, make sure the gap between the concrete pillar and the warehouse piece in this case is as large as you can get it to and still have it group select, and then you haven't got collision issues with the pillar. And there we go, that's basically it. So we'll jump up onto the roof, now we've done all the walls. Obviously it doesn't quite fit because it's just a little bit too large, but you really can't see the roof anyway. I mean, literally I could have just left it and you'd never have known. But I wouldn't feel right about that. So, basically going to stick a very basic roof on there, and then just slap some of these flat pieces on underneath just to plug the gaps. Again, it's a very ugly fix, but at least it's sort of covered on the top as well, which is more for my peace of mind than any actual visual achievement. You haven't got rainwater running down the inside of the outer cladding there. Did easy, just snap on. Yeah, there we go, got a gap there, that's really not very good. Kind of inevitable given the group selecting two halves in, I suppose. Unfortunately, there's not a great deal I'm going to be able to do about that. One good thing about doing this, however, is once you've got one of the pieces in where you want it, everything else will snap to the roof piece rather than the wall pieces. It's just that first one you need to snap to the walls, which makes life a lot easier. So, scaffolding staircases to get up to the upper floor. This is not going to work as it's just a little bit too high. So, group select as always. I faffed around with this for a while to get it sitting around the way I wanted it. These single squares are the narrow end of the long pieces as well. Just fit just inside the width of the door as well, which is very convenient. One thing that is not so convenient, this is about the only place where I genuinely found a problem with the fact to fix that hole in the floor. Now I have to reach over the top of it. Because obviously I can't stick the concrete pillar into it. However, dead simple fix. Especially with that conduit. It's already sitting there and ready and waiting. You can see it fits nicely in the gap there. Unfortunately it keeps popping up because it keeps sitting on that floor. Nudge it back a little bit. There we go. Straight into place. More or less anyway. Again, snapping to it's a bit of a pain. But fortunately, this works. So I went with the one with the railings on. There we go. And unfortunately we're going to hit that lane divider again, so we'll just go around the corner. This area out the back here is going to become a sort of patio garden for them. So I wanted to leave a certain amount of open space. This next one on. I did think about using the ladders here, the ladder style ones like that, but I figured it was probably going to stick too far below the surface of the ground, or end up not connecting with the ground, and therefore being visible from the lower level, which I tried to avoid for the most part. There's an interesting thought. It's just that little bit too high, so you can't actually walk up it, and if I can't do it, settlers certainly can't. So grab that little wooden staircase again and just group select that into place. There we go, speed this up. Bang some railings on, mix those colours up a little bit. Eventually. There we go. And I make my mind up. And there we go. That's access to Abraham and Abigail's room. Same principle on this side. We've gone around the side of it with the concrete pillars here so we don't hit the wall there, and because we're right up against the edge of the overpass here. The one falling off incident that I had that actually killed me is actually coming up in just a moment. I just sort of jumped over to take a look around the other side of something from here. Totally missed the end of the freeway and just plummeted down to the lower level. It was maddeningly embarrassing. Fortunately, I didn't have the record on at that time. So yeah, as we can't sit very close to the wall because it sticks out a little bit there, we're going to use a longer piece up there and then go around the other way. Seems to work a little better. No, wait, it had nothing to do with the wall, did it? It had everything to do with the ground disappearing on that side, that's why. Anyway, same result. So, like a silly fool, I'm jumping up and down on that concrete divider there, just so that I can see what I'm doing a bit more clearly. I ended up having to rebuild this after I fell to my death, so I just used a bit more sense to put a ladder in there for that. It's much easier. But it's the results that count, and there we go. One staircase. So we had the same problem with the stair here. At first, this thing won't snap underneath, so it might well have done it if I'd taken the upper ramp off as well. But I don't know whether or not that would have snapped back in afterwards or just been extremely temperamental. So I pulled this off, still didn't work. Despite my best efforts. So we just group select it in instead. It's actually a little too far over to the right, but yeah, close enough. So yeah, again, wrong staircase, it's too long, so we use a short one. Which again causes us to encounter the same problem. It's a little bit more visible there than it was with the ramp. So just nudge that into place. Dead easy. The other reason I didn't want to use the ramp on this one as well is because it just sticks out beyond the edge of the door a little bit, which was just not quite tidy enough for me. There we go. So yeah, this was clearly deliberate. Yeah, of course it was. Oh look, it snapped straight in. Well, it snapped to the floor I've put in there, and just very conveniently happens to be in the right place. So yeah, can't complain about that. Quite happy. Job's a good one. So, if this is going to be the Finch's garden, we need a type of garden fence. I wanted it to be in keeping with the fact they're up on the overpass, so I'm going to use some junk fences made from various bits and pieces of cars and debris and stuff. This one I didn't actually end up using, so it's just a bit too big. Yeah, well, that's the one I ended up using. This again is from Aslam's workshop jump wall pack. It's got some very cool stuff, and I've finally got enough room to actually use some of the larger stuff here, well, the medium-sized stuff. So nudge that over. I actually pulled the first one back a little bit so that it would hide the cabling I've got to power this up a level. And the other one I just lined up at the end of the house for the sake of neatness, really. To plug that last gap, I thought we'd build our own. So I was determined, try that again in English, determined to use that ice machine, but it took me ages to find it. Turns out it's in vending machines in USO decoration tabs. But it took me forever to find it because it's a container as well. So I was looking in the wrong place. So yeah, just back that onto some chain link. Group select a bit of wood in there for some variety. It's the balcony railings, shack balcony railings. It's actually a little too wide, but it does look good, doesn't it? This is a little bit too wide there. Get my pillar in the right place. There we go. It's actually quite forgiving there, which I wasn't really expecting. Always a bonus. There we go. So that's our garden fenced off. So the last bit of the main build we have to do is just close off this edge. Using the guardrails for a change. I don't think I've ever used them for anything. I might have dropped a couple in the junk pile downstairs and that was about it. They're a little bit awkward, just because they're funny shapes, but seemed a bit more organic for the location. And there we go. Tour time. Extensive decoration done on this. Took me a little while. So I do hope you enjoy. Judicious use of rug and pillar to get the fridge and the cooker in there. That cooker's actually a cooking station, so they will go up and use it. Use pieces there. Really like this room. It's supposed to be destroyed pieces, but it kind of doesn't look very destroyed. But still, it looks good. Got a few signs. I could have done with putting a few more signs around. It is Abraham Finch's place after all, but yeah, it looks alright. Lovely view out from the lad's balcony there. Assuming they don't get shot by any super mutants on the satellite array there anyway. And there's a bedroom. Sort of designed to make it look like they've been in here for a while. But at the same time they've sort of grown up in here. So they've got a desk each, sort of bunk beds, because they wanted to leave the floor space open. Some model robots. Judicious use again of Aslam's workshop junk decoration pack. So it's got the stuff on top of the desks, that sort of thing. And desk in the back corner as well. And some of the shelving around as well as from that mod as well. And that shelf full of food, for example. So I wanted to put some plants out here, but thought I had more options than I do, but there's still, we managed. So these planters actually have growing food in them, but I've just positioned those rose bushes they actually are, which actually if you go and shove your face right up close to them, they're weirdly 2D. It's kind of disturbing when you get close, but from a distance they look great. So Abraham and Abigail's room, a little more grown up. A little bit more of a woman's touch I went for in here. No idea if I succeeded, but you know. It's fairly married couple-y. The barbecue down there will also work as a cooking station as well. I'm going to put one in anyway, and I've got the option. A little bench in the corner there for them to chill out. And that basically, if I don't lock myself out of the house, is that. So, I do hope you enjoyed. Thank you very much for watching as always. If you did, do hit those buttons for me, it's always very much appreciated. And you can find me on social media, links are down below in the description. And I will be speaking to you soon. Thank you very much.